Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video. This time around, after talking about Witcher 1 in my most recent video, it is now time to tackle The Witcher 2. After considering multiple possibilities on how I could or would cover The Witcher 2 on the channel, I ended up giving the choice to the people, and I made the community poll with two options. Either one video for the entire game, similar to my most recent Witcher 1 video, or 5 different videos, one for the prologue, chapters 1, 2, and 3, and finally one for the epilogue as well. And the result is clear, so here's the first of 5 videos. This video in particular might end up being a bit longer than the remaining 4, as I will be discussing a bunch of the new mechanics that are present in the game. Alright, let's start talking about Witcher 2's ambitious prologue. Let's dive in. Okay, why not start with the combat, as the system is wildly different compared to what's present in Witcher 1. Of course, this is a fairly limited sample size of the overall combat system, but the early game felt pretty good to me. I would qualify it as a major improvement over Witcher 1's rhythm and stance fighting system. This is a more modern approach, and it resembles Witcher 3 a lot. You can do strong and fast attacks, parries, etc., and you even have some fancy finisher animations from time to time. Sure, they were in Witcher 1 as well, but they definitely took it to the next level with Witcher 2. Also, rolling is like 1,000 times more reliable and smoother in this game compared to the first, and it doesn't disrupt the flow of battle as much. In terms of difficulty, I've been playing on hard, so keep that in mind, and yeah, it's pretty hard. Harder than Witcher 3, I would say. The game makes it clear pretty quickly that using your Swallow Potion, for example, will help you a ton, and that if you simply rush into combat headfirst, you will die, even in the prologue. Once I started using the Swallow Potion, the signs, and basically strategizing more, things went mostly smoothly. I really enjoyed the difficulty. In fact, I'm very excited to see how it will evolve over the rest of the game. One minor thing that bothered me a bit was how often I was not in control of my character. For example, when I was stunned or thrown off balance, things like that. And it's probably a matter of personal preference because it does add some meaning to the combat, and like you need to make sure that you avoid certain attacks and certain things that can happen in the combat, but I did notice a lot of that. And it can lead to feeling powerless and just dying unjustly almost, like you just have no control of your character, but maybe all it means is that I need to get good and avoid the attacks that lead to such effects. Now, I did in fact die quite a few times, and yes, even to drowners. But I was left a bit frustrated by the autosave feature, because clearly it wasn't saving nearly as often as I would have liked it to, but maybe you can change that in the settings, I don't even know, and even if we can't, I just needed to remind myself of saving the game manually. I thought it was still worth mentioning though. The game introduces some new gameplay mechanics, for example, the very classic spam a button as fast as possible to complete a certain action, or click on the various buttons that show up on the screen quickly enough, or you'll end up being dragon food. No, not even that, we'll just kill you for fun and spit you out. But yeah, these new gameplay mechanics are absolutely insignificant in terms of what they individually bring to the experience. They're just not very exciting on their own, but what they do pretty well is bring some nice variety to the gameplay. It's just something new to do, and at times it's definitely welcomed. I can't say the same for this damn ballista though. I can't seem to figure out how it works, and I'm not even close to hitting my target. Oh well.
2.5 degrees.
Did we hit the bastard?
He ducked.
CDPR got pretty creative with this prologue, and it's a double-edged sword. I think it's fair to say that for some people, the result will be a mixed bag. Because while every idea on its own can seem very appealing, well, when you put them all together in this prologue, the result is really good. But it can create an overwhelming experience, especially for players who are less experienced with the world of The Witcher. That on its own is a fairly complex topic because The player base is basically split in two big camps, those who have read the books and those who have not. I don't think that you can please everyone here. In the case of this prologue, it is quite complex. There are many characters that are being mentioned, as well as past events. Throw Nilfgaard into the mix with basically no setup, and it's just packed with a lot of stuff. You can see that they expect the players to know certain things already. I also can't forget to talk about the varying timelines. I think it's again very creative, and it allows the player to jump straight into the action and discover all of the fancy new modern features of the game, which of course is a good thing. But when you put that on top of everything else that's going on, I feel like a lot of people are just going to have an information overload pretty much. At least there are many interesting conversations. For example, the one with Triss in the tent that can give a pretty good overview of the current state of the world and what's going on. And talking about Triss, am I the only one feeling like her character is very different between Witcher 1 and 2? I know that the voice actress is different. Well, it might be mostly because of that. But I still feel like she is almost behaving like a new and different character. Let me know if you agree with that in the comments. Anyways, back to the topic of complexity and the prologue being a bit overwhelming. I think it's important to say that complexity is great for replayability, and a lot of players enjoy that, right? And I think it will just depend on what you want as a player. But I think it's just fair to say, I think it's a fact that the first 2-3 hours of the game, or however long it takes you to complete the prologue, I think that those hours are very intense, and you need to try to do your best to follow along if you don't want to feel lost. Because of all that, I would say that this is not necessarily a great introduction to the franchise for newcomers. It will work, and if you're ready to feel lost a bit and ignore some of the storylines, it's completely fine, but you won't be getting the full experience, that's for sure. It's actually the first story from the Witcher universe that I fully completed back in 2019. It's the first Witcher game that I finished, and it was still enjoyable for me back then, but I would clearly advise newcomers to the franchise to start with the books and play all 3 games in their intended order. I assume it's just a better experience. Now let's talk about what's happening in that story, and honestly for such a short section, it is packed with great story moments. And that's the crazy part. Not only is it action-packed, it is packed with meaningful stuff. It's like big thing after big thing. At least personally for me, I was completely hooked, and it was a great time. But yeah, basically the story being told in the prologue is that we follow Geralt as he helps Foltest in a war with the Lavalette. Would Geralt actually get involved in such a war? I think it is up for debate, but it's definitely a question that I'm still asking myself, and I'm not sure that he would. But yeah, back to the story, there's an amazing encounter with a dragon, of course, and I like how he is there often. I like how CDPR did not just want to put a dragon in the prologue to try to hook people, but instead there's a connection to the story, since the dragon seems to have picked a side.
Geralt, you should know. Is it possible to tame a dragon?
Not as far as I know.
Then why is this reptile eating only mine, then?
But also the dragon leads to a wide variety of gameplay sequences, and I really enjoyed that. Eventually, Foltest's armies win, and Foltest wants to see his children, Anais and Busi. This leads to what I think might be one of the most iconic and great story moments in the games. The music is absolutely insane, and the storytelling is also insane, with details like Anais just looking at her father, well, maybe it was her father. Anyways, her father being murdered, and with the music and all, it's just beautiful storytelling, and it's an epic way to start the game, that's for sure. You got the twist of Geralt being caught as the presumed killer shortly after, and it's just amazing. The great characters contribute a lot to the prologue experience. The relationship between Geralt and Foltest is always interesting to me, and it's very obvious that there is a lot of respect between the two. Well, otherwise I doubt that Geralt would be fighting this war. And in any case, Foltest's character is very interesting on its own as well. He's just out there fighting with the soldiers, and it's entertaining all along. Roach, on the other end, he might have a difficult relationship with Geralt at times, especially in the beginning, but towards the end of the interrogation, it just feels to me like there's some kind of synergy going on between the two. And I don't know, I just feel like they're ready to do business together and they understand each other. I don't know, there's just something interesting going on there. And it's really cool with their common goal as well. You know, Geralt wants to clean his name, and I also think that to a certain degree, he would like to avenge Foltest, or at least understand what the hell's going on. And of course for Roach, well, he was very close to Foltest, so he wants to catch the assassin, aka Leto. Leto is barely in the prologue, but when you have two scenes as epic as the ones that he had, you can bet that I'm going to be excited to get to the bottom of this. And the prologue basically then ends with a flashback of Leto making a deal with Yorvet to get help to kill Foltest, which basically explains everything. Well, maybe except Leto's motives. We know that he wants to kill Foltest, but why? He also reveals the head of the king of Aedirn, Demavend, clearly showing Yorvet that, well, he's serious about this. The impacts of Foltest's death are obviously going to be massive, and it's another thing that's set up in this prologue. How will Foltest's death impact the political situation in Temeria, and who will rule? Again, with Nilfgaard thrown into the mix as well, things are getting interesting. Triss also loses her role as royal advisor because she's seen as an ally of Geralt, which is also interesting because it means that clearing Geralt's name could also clear her name, so we have like a trio of characters with Geralt, Roach, and Triss that are significantly impacted by the recent events. Alright, now let's switch topic and talk about music. The music is absolutely fantastic in this prologue, and I really feel like it is one of the strongest sections of the trilogy in that regard. It's another topic that will come down to personal preference, but for me, a lot of it was very, very memorable. Just take this moment, for example, before leaving for Flotsam. Even the combat music was really good, and enough that I feel the need to mention it. I was just very pleasantly surprised at how consistently good the music was throughout the prologue, with the exception of some transitions. I mean, just listen to this. Of course, it's a bit immersion breaking. Not sure if it's a bug or intended. In any case, let's move on. My closing thoughts on this prologue are pretty much that I am blown away. Complexity aside, which again is not necessarily a bad thing, I have some very, very positive feelings. I do have some minor complaints, as I've discussed in this video, but the prologue just made me fall in love with Witcher 2 again, basically instantly. It has entertaining characters, a challenging and massively improved combat system, great looking graphics, intriguing political situations, and it just sets up the game's story in a beautiful way. But again, it's not only set up. The story in the prologue itself is great in my opinion, and that's amazing. I don't really know if this is going to be a controversial video. I don't really know how people feel about the prologue of Witcher 2. You know, it's been out for a while, and it's going to be interesting to see how people feel about it, but what I know is that after playing it 3 times, yeah, I just love it a lot. But hey, let me know what you think in the comments. I'll be back soon with a video on Chapter 1, and I'm very excited to keep playing because clearly it starts in a really nice way. Thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video if you enjoyed. Bye-bye.